Tony Fonseca. Now, I know you've got a Benfica background, so I'm going to assume that you somewhat still support them. But were you excited the other day when Porto knocked out Juventus?
I have to say that I was. I'm Portuguese, so my background, speaks volumes. So, every time that a Portuguese club succeeds at that level, I'm all happy for them. If we're talking about domestic league, I'm probably not the biggest fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's funny you say that. I like that answer because a lot of times, the club loyalties stand even in Europe, which is strange. But we interviewed a big Celtic fan, and he said, I would rather Rangers win in Europe because it brings the profile up of the league. It helps with European competitions and stuff. So I'm not surprised to hear a big soccer guy like you say that. So that voice you're hearing is Tony Fonseca, a former professional player in Portugal for almost 20 years, playing with numerous clubs, including the world famous Benfica club, and retired from playing after 2 years with the Whitecaps. I didn't know this, but capped 4 times by Portugal, which is unbelievable. He'd been the Canadian national team assistant coach for 5 years, as well as the head coach of the U23 Olympic qualifying team in 2012, where Canada were only 1 game away from qualifying, beating the USA in the process. Now you're currently director of soccer for York Regional Soccer Association, correct? That's a big mouthful.
Correct.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I'm going to jump right up to 2012 because the Olympic qualifiers are coming up. I want to talk to you about your group in 2012. Do you remember a lot of those players? Do you still keep in touch with a lot of those players? And I mean, you were 1 game away from qualifying for the Olympics. How do you still keep in touch with any of these kids?
Look, through the years, I learned to love all the Canadian players. We have a long list of players that came through the rankings of youth football in Canada, and I love, to speak to them and follow them. And I try. Obviously, it's difficult. The list is getting bigger for our good. But I follow all of them. I really enjoy seeing them accomplishing, what they have done, because it's never been easy for a Canadian player. So I do follow all of them.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, because we had 2 players play for us at the Ottawa Fury when we were involved there, Carl Howarth and Drew Becky, and they were part of that team there. And it's funny, I remember when we had them speaking so highly of you that yesterday I spoke to both of them, and I just want to read this quickly out here. Carl said he was great with his players. He always felt very connected to his players. We felt connected to him, and he was very deliberate about what he wanted. And he believed in me, which was huge. And I felt that. And it gave us all the confidence knowing that he believed and trusted with us. That's what Carl said about you.
Wow.
And Drew had to edit his because, Drew's a talker. It went on for like 74 pages. But Tony was and is a great coach. He knows how to read a group well, such as when he may need to lift the group or get into the guys a bit, or when to be quiet and let the players sort out the problem. I learned a lot from him. It's tough when you can only get guys together once or twice a year, but he gave me the opportunity to play for my country. So with that said, I'm going to keep going on this Olympic
Hold on a
roster.
minute, Mark. Let's just take a second. If I was Tony right now, what Carl said in particular about believing, that's a powerful statement, for a coach or a teacher, and we're all coaches here. I'm sure you feel good about that. That those are 2 powerful. That isn't just hey, I appreciated Tony as my coach messages you got there, Mark.
Yeah.
I have to say to you guys, sometimes, people ask me, well, how do you know if you were a good coach or not? And when we leave those moments, you actually don't realize it. You just get your job done. You get connected with your players. You take the best out of them, and you put them. You hope that you translate always that confidence that they need.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, it's after the fact that you realize that what makes you a good coach or a bad coach, it's what they say after you're not coaching them.
Yeah.
Right? And that's, for me, he has a great value for sure.
Yeah, those are powerful statements. I didn't know you did that, Mark. Like, and kudos to you. That's a neat little addition there.
Yeah, and I wanted to build off what Drew said here about how hard it is and how to leave an impact like you did on these players. But to build off what he said, and you're only together twice a year. And national team coaches, it's got to be, I mean, club coaches, it's day in, day out. You can forge relationships, you can do whatever. But to leave an impact after seeing someone only twice a year, that's got to be a national team manager versus a club manager. Talk to us about which do you prefer, which is harder, which I know it's got its challenges either way, but talk to us about that, about meeting with the players only twice a year.
It definitely is a great challenge. We back in the day, we didn't use virtual as much as we use now, and we get really good at it by practicing. But back in the day was more through the phone and conversations, and and we always try to follow what the player feels and what he needs, and what is daily. Working at the clubs that they were representing at the time, and try to keep them positive. There's an incentive. For me, growing up in a game, when I got called from a national coach saying, you invited to be part of the U14, U15, 16, 17 national team, I would jump off my chair and I would go run around just happy, because that's what motivated me. So that kind of feeling, that's what I try to pass on to the young athletes. Every time that somebody from the national body calls you, you should be so excited and pumped and ready to go. So I use that as a motivation, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Can I jump in there, Mark? Because the fact that Carl said that, and Steve, I agree with you. It made an impact on me just listening to it. Tony, do you think like your story, playing at Benfica or wherever all the steps that you played, that you understood how players can feel lonely or feel distant, and did that help you keep that in front of your mind to do that for your players when you coach them? Or were you coached like that and you liked that and you wanted to mimic that?
I think that it's my life experiences that taught me how to actually relate to other people. I don't want to jump into my youth and then what I had to go through to actually become a professional player. But I definitely appreciate what I've been through, and I told that group of players in particular, my story about football. And when you think that everything is beautiful and it's going to happen for you, and somebody cuts your legs and then you have to go and fight again. So I think that that kind of resonated in all of them back in the day, because if you hear me out, at age 21, 22, it's when the cutoff age is, either you make it pro or you don't make it pro, right? And until then, you think you actually made it because you play youth football, you get to the Olympics, which is in Europe, it's completely different. You already a professional or not, but here completely different. And they all came in sometimes with a chip on their shoulders and thinking, I already made it. I'm at the Whitecaps, or I'm at Montreal Impact. And I kept on reminding them that I did all of that and more. Yeah. And then, I was not signed for a big club. That was my passion. Yeah. And then I had to go to the second division and work my way out again, and not getting paid for years of development, and not able to go home because I couldn't, ask my parents to actually feed me because they didn't have to feed me. So all of this, it kind of resonated in the group, and made them understand that you have it now. It's your time. Turn it into something good. And I think they kind of understood that component.
I have a follow-up to that. And
that just made me want to, Tony, I'm putting on boots right now. I'm going out to play.
I know.
It was brilliant. I'm like, it is my time. It's 9 a.m. I got to get out there.
I know. I wanted to say you're so good of a coach. You motivated Mark to read something that long he's never read in his life. Yeah. But also, do you think, and this just sparked the thought of me, and Mark, I hope I'm not like actually, know what? I hope I'm stealing one of your questions because they're so good, and so I get complimented. So, Tony, do you think in Canada the kids are given like too much of a cushion to fall back on, so it's easy to fall? Or do you think if it was harder, like, you know, in the favela streets in Rio, you know, they just fight because that's all they have, or they're like Suarez and they'll bite someone's ear off to make it anywhere, you know? So what do you think about that? Do you think it's too easy for Canadians to live here and fall? They have a cushion.
Look, I'm gonna say this with open heart. Canada is one of the best countries, and for me personally, and for my family, best country in the world. And I travel around the world, so I don't take anything for granted. I work every day. I show the same passion for it. You know, whatever I do and wherever I am, you know, I do my best, and I encourage everybody to do the same. So don't take anything for granted. But, you know, true to the fact is that, yes, in countries like Brazil or Portugal or Argentina, you know, there's not that many options. You know, either you follow this route or you probably on the wrong path. And here it's not necessarily that. There's many, many ways that you can go and live your lives and be successful. You know, what I think, in my opinion, needs to happen is that whatever it is that you commit yourself to, put everything in, because I used to say the soccer is the most fair game in the world. Why? Everything that you put in, you take out, right? There's no shortcuts to success, right? And unfortunately, you know, for most of the Canadian kids, you know, they have it easy. Yes. You know, they don't have to, you know, and I look at the mentality of a recreational player and a competitive player or development player, and they all really look the same. There's no difference because we tend to put all in the same bag. So, you know, people get used to being mediocre or something, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you won Jay's heart. I know that from that
My
thing,
God,
Jay.
I'm gonna give a quote next week for Mark to read about you, like, and you never coach me, but I'm gonna lie to everybody.
Yeah, Jay, that was an amazing question. Now I'm gonna keep that theme going because recently on this podcast, I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to Grant Wally's done a podcast about Freddie Adu, and Freddie Adu's the first, like, it's his first ever interview post playing and everything like that. Now, you guys played the Americans and you beat the Americans in this Olympic qualifying in 2012. Now, just out of my own curiosity and anybody who's listened to the Freddie Adu podcast, how good was he watching him up close? Was he really that good?
He was definitely talented, you know, above average, you know, and I think they rushed a little bit Freddie Adu. That's my personal opinion, right? So they were desperately looking for an idol, somebody that will come from the U.S. system. And so they had that urge. And I think in that process, they made a few mistakes. And I think that's what failed with Freddie Adu. He had great potential, and that's my opinion.
Yeah. Now, keeping on the last question here about the Olympics, but I want to know, do you know much about the group that we have assembled now for the tournament next week? Do you know any of those kids or a lot of those players? And how do you think we'll do? Do you think we have a chance of qualifying?
We are definitely better than you know, years past. Why? We have a bit more depth. We have a little bit more game savvy, you know, and I think we are a little bit better prepared, you know, and that is part of a process that started many years ago.
Yeah.
People might not remember this, but you know, we started identification camps. We started that with the purpose of, you know, identifying the talent in the 10 provinces around us. You know, try to funnel them into professional environments that at the time was just the 3 MLS academies, and I created, you know, a link with the MLS academies that, you know, in order for me to recommend a player to you, you cannot charge that player. That player has to play there for free. So that was an agreement that we had back in the day, because in Canada, unfortunately, you know, we still have this belief: the better you are, the more you have to pay.
Yeah.
That's completely wrong, and it will never succeed in any, you know, successful country of soccer. So you have to have something different. We had to create something different. And what you see now is a crop of players that coming from that kind of education in CONCACAF that was not existing back in the day, and education in better environments, that they actually now going through all the nuances of the game, what they need to do, the moments of the game, that was not existing at the time. We could be winning, 2-0, and, you have players, instead of killing the game the last 5 minutes of the game, they would chase the ball and throw the ball, and you go like, oh, why? Well, because it's fair. Well, okay, I get it. But there's the first goal here which is for us to win the game.
Yeah.
So depend on the level that we are talking about, but you could see that, and I could see that, from the youngest player, on the field at age 15, for example. We're doing a tournament in CONCACAF, and he's halfway to the first half, and he's saying, "Coach, can I sit for a minute? Because I'm tired."
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, wow, he doesn't know better. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what he was used to.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, you got to hang on and then wait till the halftime. And I had to explain to him in good terms that I said, no, you give your best. And when you can't, you get out, but then you don't get in anymore.
Yeah.
And that as a couple of, things that can come with that. Either you show me that you are not ready to be at this level, or something is wrong.
Yeah.
So, things like that. But we had many, and I have learned many things being in the Canadian system. Look, before I joined the Whitecaps, and it was an eye opener for American soccer, where we go on the road and we play 8 to 9 games, and you go like, what is this? And you travel from one game to the other, 300, 400 kilometers in a van. So experience all of that, and then you learn a great deal of Canadian soccer and how far have we become, right?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, this is like, I feel like I have like 78 follow-up questions,
me
but
too.
I'm gonna travel back in a time machine here. You're playing for, and I'm gonna butcher this name, but I'm gonna try my absolute best. You're playing for Tirsense.
Yeah,
Oh, I pronounced it too long of an E. Tirsense. Okay, so you're playing for Tirsense in Portugal. And what league were they? Were they in the second division at the time?
They were second division, yeah.
Okay, and then you get this magical, this is the movie story, I'm gonna say. You get a magical phone call, you go to Benfica, the biggest club in Portugal. Now, is that how it happened? And me and Steve were talking off the air, like, there isn't social media like it is now. There's no leaks, there's no this, is Fonseca going to Benfica? Like, did this just come at you like a cannonball? Did you have any idea? How did this work?
Yeah.
No, it's a long story, but again, it has a couple of episodes, and one of them is that I definitely left Benfica when I was a junior player, so I played for Benfica, and then I didn't make the final cut, so I did not sign the professional contract with the senior team. So I went, you on your own, you go and find a club. So first year being a senior player, I went to a club in the second division that I got paid the first month, and that was it.
Wow.
Then quickly I said, this is not for me. I got to go and look for another place. So I went to another club, more central of Portugal, and not even got the first month. So I'm thinking seriously that the game is shutting all the doors for me. I can't do it anymore. So,
Wow.
but I hang through. I hang really tight and I work really hard. But in the middle of that season, I collapsed on the field.
Oh my God.
Malnutrition. I didn't eat anything. That was a tough of a spell. So the coach at that time took me to his place. He fed me and he recovered me, and I played at the end of the season. So, and then Tirsense came along. So I spent 2 years there, right?
Wow.
End of the first year, I'm all excited. I'm getting paid finally, food on the table. And, and somebody comes and phones me from Porto and saying, we are interested in you. We're going to sign you. And they knock on my door, the place that I was leaving. And I said, oh yeah, but have you guys spoke to the club representatives? And they said, yes, it's all agreed. It's all done. And I innocently signed. Very next day, I get the president of the club knocking on my door as well and says, you are in big trouble, son.
Oh,
You have signed this and we have not authorized.
yeah.
And I'm like, oh no. So at that time, the whole world kind of collapsed on top of me. And I'm like,
Wow.
what happened? What's going on here? My dream is getting shattered here. And so I had to make a few phone calls and get out of that deal myself. Because at the time, Ticens had already signed a deal with Benfica.
Oh,
Wow.
oh my God. And you had no idea.
Yeah, so I had no idea. So you're the last one to know back in the day. So I'm like, well, Benfica, that's my dream, that's my club, that's what I love. So that's a story and a half, and that I keep reminding myself, and the kids as well, that what, when one door closes, other will open.
Forgive my ignorance. You grew up playing in Portugal, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I actually started playing the game at Sporting, believe me or not.
Oh, really?
Biggest rival.
Yeah. So when you sign, I need to know, like, maybe this is where we get too nerdy, Tony, and people are going to tune out, but whatever, I'm going to ask anyway. Like, when you signed, so you didn't know Benfica were in, the club agreed to sell you. So then you signed for Benfica. Did you have like, and you could probably laugh this off because I think the answer is maybe a no, but did you come in the stadium and juggle the ball and newspapers took photos of you and like you were paraded with the scarf and stuff? Or like, how did that part work?
No, it was not like that. Back in the day, what happens was that the Benfica had a new project in place, and Gisualdo Ferreira was the guy that was in charge of that project. He's now coach of Boa Vista. Benfica decided to create a B team at the time, and it was all young players, right? And the objective was to actually, nurture the new crop of players at Benfica. So I was probably the second player that came back to Benfica, that left Benfica and came back to Benfica at that time. Only one player before me made that cut. Once they were released, they will never come back.
Wow.
That's how difficult it was to get back, to the big door. So they started that project. So in that year they signed, it was 12 of us and some existing players that stayed there from the youth ranks. And we started a new project, and we went around the world. We traveled around the world. We played minor competitions like, the Portuguese Cup. They would give it to us. There was the team that was going to play, and we won a lot of things, and we accomplished a lot of things.
Wow.
So that was a big project back in the day.
Yeah.
Can you so we've talked to a bunch of different, especially Canadian internationals, to Guzman and Bunbury, and a bunch of them, but none of them played at a club as big as Benfica. And I know we've got a lot of listeners and people here that like, they love the game, but no one's ever been to that level you've been at. Is there any way you can describe the feeling of walking out at that stadium? And I guess in your case, because you are a youth player, it must have meant a little bit more too, like coming home and stuff. Like, can you describe that feeling? Like, is it like you see in these movies where players come out and almost like everything goes quiet because it's so surreal? Like, can you put it into words?
I can tell you a story of my first game with a senior team that was a relevant, game for me. That was Champions League, what's called now Champions League.
Yeah.
So I was training with that B team, and we always in separate fields. And a day before European competitions, the coach comes to me and says, "You are on the roster for tomorrow." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And I'm.
Yeah.
This is what I'm living for. And then he says, and tomorrow morning, so join us. We have the breakfast at so-and-so. I didn't go to the hotel, so it was all pre-planned. They thought if I'm going with the team on that night to the hotel, I'm not going to sleep. So they said, join us for breakfast tomorrow morning, and I did. So I get there early, and the coach is in the lobby, and he calls me aside, and he says, son, I have good news for you. You are starting tonight.
No way.
And I was like, oh God. Then reality kicks in, right?
Yeah.
So we leave the hotel 2 hours before, and it takes 15 minutes with all the the scouts and everything in front of you, so you get into the stadium fairly quick. And when you get to the stadium, I seen it because I was a big fan. The stadium is already half full. Right. So, and back in the day, we're not talking about like today, 65,000 seats. It's 120,000 people.
Jesus.
It was 3 rings, right? So, I get, in the locker room, and obviously, you start getting a little bit itchy. And I go, okay, we go for a warm up. And as soon as I get off, to the tunnel, and they go through the warm up, and you hear this raw, and you feel like this size. You feel the size of an ant.
Wow.
And you feel like, oh my God, you start shaking, and you can't get over yourself. And then, first whistle goes off, and you start playing, and everything is gone. So all your fears, all your, your emotions are driven by the game, and it's fantastic. And it was best day of my life. We played Partizan.
Oh wow!
Okay, yeah, nice.
So,
did you win?
We won. Actually, we won 1-0, and we played crap. And I never forget that day, because we played horrible. And at Benfica, it's not enough just win. You gotta play well. And we didn't play well, and that was a little bit of a problem. And I remember exiting the stadium on that day, and they kind of make a corridor, and people were just throwing stuff at you. And and then when I came out, and I'm panicking, and they said, you okay, kid? You okay, kid? You keep going. Don't listen to these old guys. Huh?
That's amazing.
And I'm like, oh my God, I escaped this one. So that's my baptism into, the real, emotions of the game at the senior level.
I love that.
Yeah.
So how do you transfer that, like that experience, and then, I'm not going to put you on the spot. Don't name any names. I know you're probably going to answer this very politically correct. But if a parent comes up to you and complains about a kid in your club, don't you want to look at them and yell at them in Portuguese? And just say, I know you won't, but inside, Tony, like, oh my God, just even going through that, and a parent's like, my son, where are his new socks? He didn't get his, and you're just like, what the heck is going on here?
I think I get you, and frustrations can set in fairly quick. When we're dealing with people that have no background in the game or education in the game. But I think there's a need for people to actually learn about the game, and how to behave in the game, and what to do for the best interest of the player. And I think they get foggy into this process. They don't know. They think they want the best for their kids, so they don't know when to start or when to finish, or what kind of approach they should have. And I think that's the part of the process, is educating people. And I keep saying that a big part of our job as coaches, it's educate the parents. In Canada, it has to be that way. Educate the parents, and educate the kids. Those are the easy ones to educate. The players, they want to succeed. They want the best. They take what you give them. But the parents, they definitely, hard.
I'm gonna steal your story because it's such an impact in my brain that the next time I'm going to chat with a parent, like, I was malnourished to the point where I fell down, and I came back, and then Benfica signed me, I think, and I played in front of 100. It's such a great story, Tony. Like, you should consider putting that on print somewhere, or telling that story, because that's
after this comes out, though.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in on you here, because being we're all coaches and you're one of the best here, but you were coached by, is it Steve? Okay, he's on. Okay, yeah, sorry. By Sven-Goran Eriksson, correct?
Yeah.
At your last year at Benfica, he was your manager. Now, when I saw that, that blew my mind, and it also created a weird link to what Carl and Drew had said, because I remember reading about Sven after England and saying he was such a player's manager, such a good communicator, such a great human being. Now, are those true? And what qualities did you pull from Sven-Goran Eriksson into your coaching life?
Many things. To be honest with you, I got Sven-Goran Eriksson twice. I got him when I was junior, and he called me into the reserve team to play, and he was that guy that you just described. It was unbelievable, down to earth, very friendly. Put everybody at ease, with a great soccer brain. He's for. If you don't know, I'm pretty sure I'm now going to break the news to you, but he started the zone marking. And that was introduced then, in Portugal.
Yeah.
And that was by many seen as, this guy is a fool. Right?
Yeah.
But, going back to, Sven-Goran Eriksson, the first time I got him, and the relationship that endured for many years. As a matter of fact, I saw him again in Mexico when he was coaching Mexico national team, and I was the assistant to Steven. Then we played in Mexico. So actually Del Mitchell and Steven was the assistant, and I did a scouting job for them. So second time around, he was a completely changed man when he came in, because he went to Italy, and Italy had been more cynical. The way they approach things, he changed them. Again, he didn't change his soccer mind, but he changed his approach to the players. And we saw a different man the second time. Not saying that is horrible man. No, he was just different. He was not as friendly anymore. He kept his distance, and he has his own ways, and probably the reasons why he had to change his behaviors around players.
Yeah. So before we kind of move on to something else here real quick, I want to ask about Portugal. You were called up to the full national Portuguese team. I mean, that debut story has to be similar to the Benfica one, or is it bigger? Was it a bigger thing to represent your country than make it to a big club back then, or what did you feel?
For sure, that is, that it's the proudest moment of your life. So you want to, everything that you do growing up in a game is you have that pride moment in your mind that is playing for your national team. And when that day comes, there's nothing more relevant in your life. So he becomes, everything for you. He fulfills you. And that's exactly what happens. I told you the story that my youth, I'm getting called from the national team coach it's a satisfaction that you couldn't believe. You jump, and when he, at senior level, that happens. That's the recognition that you hope that you actually get. Yeah. And you feel so proud that you do whatever it takes to be there and for your country. So, in our philosophy, growing up in the game in Europe, it's what you can do for your national team. It's not what your national team can do for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No,
so did you get a phone call? Did the club tell you?
The club, the communication goes through the club, because the clubs ultimately have to free the player, right?
Yeah.
And they have to release. But because somehow your coach will get approached first, and then he gives you some tips saying, look, continue to do what you're doing because you're on the right track.
Wow. Did so Mark, Jason and I are totally taking over this interview from you, but who'd you play with? I think you went on a tour, if I'm correct, for for a few games. Like, who are some of the big dogs that we know, or that were out of this world?
Yeah, Diamantino, Carlos Manuel, Shalana, you have all of these people that, back in the day remind you that, our players, or Portuguese players, they've not used to go anywhere, right? Spain with that. Rui Aguas, he went to Italy at the time. right? But very few. It's not like today. More than 2/3 of the national team is playing somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Which is a great testament for what we do in terms of developing players in Portugal. Definitely very well recognized, and has to do with the history of the game in Portugal, right?
Yeah. So before we jump into, I'm going to ask some quick rapid fire questions too. But before that, just because again we're three coaches here, I feel like I have. You were a left back, correct?
I was a left back.
So the role of a fullback has changed dramatically over the last, 10 years. Were you kind of ahead of your time as a fullback? Were you attacking fullbacks back then, or in Portugal was it different, or how did that work?
No, it was different. I was that kind of player, so I was more like a winger than a left back. So we and lucky the years that I played, at Benfica, the center backs were Moser and Ricardo.
Wow.
So they were basically we at Benfica at that time we would rent half because they will never pass the half. It's constantly attacking, and basically our system was the fullbacks. They were just basically up and down, halfway line, boom, up and down, and sometimes you feel like, okay, I gotta rest a little bit, and then you get yelled from the center back saying, "Hey, you gotta go. We need action, man. We need somebody to break through so we can actually get involved in the game." That was the feeling.
Wow,
I love that. I love it. So, who was the best player you ever played with in your career?
Shalana, without a doubt.
Wow.
You guys probably first time you hear this name, but do a little research. It was a phenom. It was something special. And then Footer, there was definitely a great player. We started at Sporting at the same time.
Oh wow.
He was a year younger. We were playing the same team. Great character, great player, talented. Probably not recognized really well for what he did, but he was a great player and he broke a lot of I think back in the day they didn't believe that the Portuguese player could actually play in different leagues, and he actually broke that myth, and he actually made it happen for a lot players after that. Rui Barros that went to Italy as well, and João Alves before, a guy that played with black gloves. So great players without a doubt, but nothing compared to what we have today. But we had always great talent, but we struggle as a country to come together. And in many ways reminds me of Canada, coming together. It's the difficult portion. We had the North, we had the South, and people, sometimes I remember going to a national team camp and the sessions were more difficult than the games. Right? Because, the players from the North, they didn't like the South, and the South did not like the North, and it was like a constant battle, right? And so the training sessions, sometimes they were tough.
Yeah. Wow. What about the best player you ever coached?
Cool. Best player. Best player that I have a coach. I think coaching is an art, and when you see talent, you see potential, and I think throughout coaching in Canada, I have come across many talented kids, many. The Alphonso Davies of the world, they're easy to spot. I spot them in 10 minutes. So I call him in for an ID camp. He missed the Vancouver ID camp. I was in Toronto doing an ID camp, spoke to somebody, from Edmonton. I said, "Tony, you got to see this kid." And I said, "Okay, I will fly him in." So I flew him in, picked him up from the airport, took him to the training. And 10 minutes later, I said, "Stop, sit down." And I called the Vancouver Whitecaps and I said, "You got to sign this kid. It's in your territory and he's got to move to that kind of environment."
Wow.
He's doing nothing, wherever he is, he's doing nothing.
Wow.
So you have that. You have players that Bryce Alderson, for me, was a great prospect
Yeah.
out of the game. So,
Yeah.
at youth level, you see this, but then
How does
you
it
know
translate?
they can go very wrong very fast.
Yeah.
On a senior team, players that I honestly had the pleasure to meet and work with. Thomas Radzinski influenced me, big time. I think he was a great pro,
Hmm.
very talented. And then definitely, Atiba for his longevity on a game and what he has shown, game and season after season in different, leagues. So
Yeah.
for me, he is still, one of the best players, if not the greatest. But you have the likes of Paul Stalteris,
Mhm.
that came from great environments, great people, committed, that have accomplished a lot. So I don't want to take one overall. I think
Yeah.
we have a great group of guys.
I was dying. I thought there was a chance out there that you were going to pick me, and you've never coached me or seen me play. It's terrible. I've never even played at the high, but I was like, he might say it.
So I'm gonna do this segment. I do with these guys sometimes, but I'm gonna do it for you only. It's a Portugal edition. I'm gonna name you a Portuguese player, and you're gonna tell me if he's overrated or if he's underrated. Okay, so we're gonna start with Bruno Fernandes.
What a start.
He is definitely a good player.
Yeah.
Pepe. Does Pepe, and I'm talking Pepe today, because I mean in that game with Port, it was fantastic. But does Pepe today make the European Championship squad this summer?
Pepe today is one of the best center backs in the world.
Hmm.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, but it wasn't always like that, eh?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Here's one that I know will resonate with these guys and other people, and because people have been hearing this name forever. He's going to make a move here. William Carvalho.
Hmm.
It's an enigma. Some people love him, some people hate him, right? And he does really well on the role that has been given at the national team. He can be frustrating as hell.
Hmm.
Renata Sanchez.
Good one.
It's a good one, and I think I'm gonna say that he is a byproduct of speeding up somebody to the top football.
Good point. Yeah, I agree.
What about Pedro Neto?
Pedro Neto, you're gonna see more of him. I think he's a real treat, and I think if he makes the move to where I think he's gonna move, then you're gonna see actually something fantastic.
I love him. I love
Can we
him.
know? Can we know where you think he's going to go? In case you nail it, then we can.
Man City.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow.
And the last one, who I mean, he's a great player. Don't get me wrong, and everything. But has he hit where we think he should have hit? And that's João Felix.
Again, I think a byproduct of this speed. We gotta refrain sometimes. The way we see players and try to get them into a level that is too fast for them.
Yeah. And for these two, I'll do it. I wasn't going to do it, but for these two, I'll do it. Diego Jota.
He's a worker, man. People think, that, well, is he all that it shows now? I think you have not seen enough because unfortunately he got injured. But he's a machine. He's a guy that loves English football and it fits in.
It does.
He's a pressing fanatic.
Yeah.
He's relentless. He's just, you can't stop him. So I think, he's one of those guys that, he fits into the top level of players. I think he is fantastic.
Yeah. Well, that's what we have here. So you never know when a guest comes on what it's going to be like. And I'll tell you right now, this was from minute one to now. It's fascinating. I've always respected you and heard people that have respected you, but I mean, just talking to you now, your knowledge is unbelievable. And I feel like I've learned something in the last 30 minutes. And frankly, I'd love to have you back sometime if you're interested. So thank you. Like, I mean, I know you're Portuguese. We spent a lot of time in this Portuguese situation, but a lot of Canada needs to thank you for what you've done for our country. And, you know, we're trying to grow the game here via a podcast, and you're the perfect person to have on. So thank you so much.
No, thank you for the opportunity. I tell you, you know, one thing in kind of confession, you know, I think Canada has taught me a lot, you know, how to bring the level that I was to where it should start. And you learn by that, you know. You can't actually expect that, you know, people follow your ideals or your, you know, your goals if you don't know how to deliver those goals. You know, you cannot say that, you know, because I played in such place that I know you are obligated to follow what I'm saying. So you have to actually walk through those steps, and actually that has allowed me to actually learn the differences and what needs to be done. By all means, I don't have the answers. If I did, I would be probably millionaire at this point. But I can tell you is this, you know, I have seen the differences. I have seen the needs. I know that we have a lot of potential that could be maximized, and we don't do it, you know, and we don't do it because we don't want. It's because we don't actually believe that somebody's being truth.
Yeah.
And they want to help us to actually achieve a better goal. Right?
Yeah. Well, thank you. And when we stop recording here, if you could hang on for a minute, because we have.
So we're recording. Yeah. We're on.
I know.
And we're back. The traffic is.
I'll start. Wow, really good. Obviously, I knew his pedigree and who he was and stuff, but you nailed it, Mark, when you said you don't know someone until you know someone, kind of thing. And he was like, he is exactly the quotes you read from the players, and I wanted to just suck information from him as much as possible. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
He's so humble, like, for doing all that. Like, I was trying to get him to, like, puff out his chest, yell at a parent, you know, like, show off. He's like, no, he was just so humble, and I love that. But I can see, and I was desperate for him just to praise me once in the podcast. For some reason, I don't know why. I was like, did you notice? I was like just trying to like get him to want him to like me. I was like doing a curtsy every time I spoke to him. Like,
you know what killed me, Jay, though? I think you nailed a huge point when you were talking to him about.
Go on.
Yeah, I'll praise you. What percentage of me praising you rates to the Tony praising you? Is it like 11%?
No, I'm going to surprise everyone. It is everything to me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I love you so much.
I just think that parents and people in like youth soccer, kind of what Jay said, and it's a stupid way to put it, but like kind of check yourself when you're approaching someone, like you said, about like, my son doesn't have socks. Tony Fonseca, who played for Benfica in Portugal and this and that.
Yeah.
Like, relax. Like, I mean, imagine you're him and that's what you hear. And I know you asked him that question, and I'm being Tony right now.
I know.
Yeah, you are. You're being Tony for Jay. But like, I think his answer was so good. Like he basically said, they don't know who I am. They don't know the game. They don't know Benfica. Like, they would never go up to Joe Sakic coaching their kid and ask about the socks. They would never do that. They think Tony Fonseca is like a parent volunteer. Whereas
it's almost like he's Jesus. They don't know who he is. Like the way you said it, like, but he's so humble. Like, he's just so like, I think it would be a fault of mine. I would be like, I would tell everyone that I've passed out on a field because I worked so hard, and then I ended up at Benfica.
Can we talk about that story? That's one of the best stories we've heard here. Like, I think, and like the fact, and then the fact that you nailed his character, Jay, too. Like he even said it humbly. He's like telling a story, and he goes, "And I passed out on the field for malnourishment. Then I went to the," and it was like, "Whoa, man, slow down. You didn't eat." And you actually faint, like passed out on the field. Like that's incredible, man.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that shows like what I said about the cushion, like in Canada here, like if you don't make it as a soccer player, you're going to university and you're going to make 75,000 minimum a year, and you're
Jay, can I praise you?
Yeah.
I think that was a great question, and
Agreed.
the cushion reference is genius.
I'm so proud of that. I'm so glad you brought that up.
It is
I'm
such
really
a good
trying to
thing.
add that to my game. Yeah.
As soon as you said cushion, I got like tingly and my brain started working. and I'm gonna like suggest something that might like bomb to you guys and everybody. I actually, as you said that, I got this idea in my head of when we go back and look at all the people we've talked to, I almost want to pull, if I'm good enough, clips of each one of them they each had at least one obstacle. And I want to pull those clips and almost be like, look, here's what the snobs have seen. And here's examples of things you have to overcome, you know, because we have that cushion, and that, you know what, I don't want to apologize for that as Canadians. We shouldn't. We have a good standard of life, and he said it, he's here because of said reason. But you don't have that at times, that pure fighting like a Suarez, like you said, who's going nowhere without it. So I want to pull that bit, you know, like that's a tough.
I know. I think about it all the time. The best is we just lost Mark. I love it. I hope when he comes back, let's just pretend that he ruined the show on camera.
You know what? He's also never had technical difficulties of the three of us. It's like he sits on a throne of like perfection compared to us, and he's rattled from this.
For sure, he's so rattled. But so it's Tony. I wish Mark was here, but I'm like, he's the head of York Region Soccer, so it's like York Soccer Club, basically.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know
amazing.
I don't know how tied in he is to York 9. I'm gonna assume he must be and stuff.
Yeah. And he worked under Stephen Hart.
Yeah, and he was the Olympic coach. Like that's the closest they've got since the.
What a group, though! What a group! If he's working with Stephen Hart, like what a team! Like imagine playing for them as a player.
And Dale Mitchell, so like that's like three legends and like three good minds. We've had two of those three on. Like
that's
and
like great people.
Yeah, I think he again humbly delved into some of the lasting effect that group had and of things they set up, like. And spotting ID and players getting to different levels. So you mentioned the obvious example of Alphonso Davies. Again, he said it just like, this is what happened and this is what I did.
I love that story. The 10
so
minutes.
Good.
And the people at home, like you can't see, but he put his hand, like he stopped Davies from playing after 10 minutes, said, no, sit down.
Yeah.
You're going somewhere else. Like I have to make a phone call. I can't get you injured or something. I love that.
Yeah, I can't get you to a pro club fast enough. And I'm so glad you brought that up. It's so true because I could see him almost being like, this is the dumbest trial I've ever had. This is so dumb and so obvious. Stop this trial right now. Like this kid flew there. The kid probably just wants to play to like, Alfonso. He probably just wanted to play because he's excited. He wants to get out of the hotel. And he's like, no, get back into a cotton wool bed that I'm sewing for you right now and shipping you in a box, a FedEx box to Vancouver. And whoever he called at Vancouver better do anything he says to them for the rest of their lives.
Why isn't that story more out there? I think that's a massive story.
It's like his other story. I think he's just too humble. This is what he did.
Oh my God. Like,
I love that group did well for Canada and had that lasting effect where that ID camp, like he said, has put a group of players to a point where we've got depth. Like he's right. There is some depth there.
God, I should have been taking notes. I think we should know because he started getting into some of the Benfica's kind of like game model, and it was kind of I really wanted to get into that and what he notices now. But God, like it's almost like we need to book guys for like 3 30-minute interviews over a year.
Yeah.
Because like you can't like in 30 minutes, it's tough.
I think you're bang on. I think it'd be good to have him back on to talk a bit more coaching specific and maybe get a little like we delved into some Canadian stuff, but then you and I think derailed where Mark wanted to go with the Olympic stuff early on, but because we were so excited. We were like little kids. Like
I feel so ignorant because in my head, I didn't know much about Tony Fonseca. And that's why I love about the show. Like I don't really do the research Mark does. And I just show up and like, it's just real. It's real. Like everything is raw. What I'm saying, I thought he was in a cocky, massive, like a huge Italian. He was like the totally opposite, like humble, well-spoken, articulate, like
Yeah.
And like in a probably like, he reminds me now, if I think about it, I kind of picture him probably gonna like played like, I don't know, like a Gary Neville left back or Dennis Irwin, like short and strong and like fit and all the way up and down. Like I could be totally wrong, but
welcome back, Mark. Perfection.
Oh, yes.
You were the only person never to have technical difficulties on the show, and you froze on the screen like a chimp looking at food, like a banana coming to him. You're like,
I love it. It's usually me. How panicked were you out of 10?
It was two things. One, I had to pee so bad, so it came at a good time.
Okay, I thought you did it because you had to go.
No. But 10 o'clock on a Saturday is when we let our kids go on electronics from 10 to 11 on a Saturday.
Okay.
It was just they must have both ran on and blown up and just fired up 17 devices, and just a puff of smoke came from my roof.
Did you run around and like, guys, get off?
That's it was like, is my phone working? They're gonna be so mad. Let's show that.
That's amazing. Thank God it wasn't with Tony. I have a question. Speaking of kids, okay?
Yep.
You're at the dentist. I just went to the dentist. You're at the dentist.
Yep.
It's at the end, and they say, "What flavor do you want for your fluoride?"
Oh God,
always bubblegum. Always bubblegum.
Hold on. My God. Hold on, Jay. Answer.
That's disgusting. I do the orange every time. Orange. Bubblegum, never. Bubblegum. Oh, Mark.
Okay. I asked my dentist because I was like, wait a minute here. Because the last time I got cherry and I hated it, but I hated it. I thought it was going to be like Gatorade with like the fruit punch. Yeah. And it was too much. It was like overload. And then I asked her, I said, I'm going to pick mint. And I said, do you think I'm boring because I picked mint? How many people pick mint? She said, 80% of adults pick mint. I said,
actually, I forgot I would pick mint. Go on.
Yeah. See? So then I said, who picks like the other stuff? What other do the adults pick? She said, some pick cherry, like you, probably the rest. I said, yeah. And I hated it. She goes, yeah. She said, a small portion pick grape and no adult picks bubblegum. She told me.
I love that you picked it.
And Mark immediately says, no brainer bubblegum. She said, she's never in her 10 years of being a dentist had an adult pick bubblegum. Only pick bubblegum. That's why you do this show, Mark, and your angle. Bubblegum, no brainer.
Oh, yeah. How can you not? All I think about when they say it's an option, it's like Hubba Bubba or like Big League Chew comes into my head.
Big League Chew?
Yeah. Oh, so good.
It just seems like so counterproductive. You're going to the dentist to prevent decay, and then you're gonna buy some or get something that usually causes.
That's like when you get a lollipop leaving the dentist when you were a kid.
Stupid.
That was dumb. That was dumb for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had to bring that up.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Love that you said bubblegum. When I go back, I'm telling her. I'm gonna say, you'll never believe it.
For the podcast, can you try bubblegum and come back with a review?
It's not worth it.
Jay's winning me so hard.
First of all, it's 6 months from now, and he's gonna forget.
I'll forget for sure. I won't forget because this will spark the memory.
Exactly.
I don't think I can do it. I was really upset when I had cherry. I thought I'd made a great call, and I was really angry about it. It's like there were chunks of dried cherry that like someone's feet walked on to crunch the cherry, and they were like an hour later, I still could see red at my tongue.
No, it was the bile from Fonseca's stomach when he was malnourished mixed in with it.
Oh my God.
I'll never get that story out of my head, by the way.
Mark, to recap what you missed, we just talked about that's how unbelievably amazing that story was and how humble he said it and how humble he said the Davies piece. And we said can you imagine Alphonso Davies, you fly there, you're just excited to get out and play, and then he's like, no, after 10 minutes, and he puts you in a wool wrap and sends you away. Like,
that was like the actual official finding out of who discovered Davies and sent him to Vancouver in the most if that was me, I would have it like on a band around my head.
I'd have it on a tattoo, Davies, 10 minutes underneath my eye tattoo. Like 100%. I would tell
How is he?
everyone.
Here's a
With the
question.
football players, like under each
Yeah.
eye.
Yes.
What like sure, we don't know everything about him. We talked to him for a little bit, but if this guy wasn't interviewed for one of the 6 or 7 CPL teams,
That's
I will
true.
eat my own hat.
That's
Like
true.
how you have a guy like this not involved
Hey,
in
Mark,
that?
we talked that he's like involved in York, and Jay and I didn't know. Is he have a connection that you know of with the York club?
I don't think so. I would doubt it, but I don't know.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
basically like, I wonder if he got for the York position because like he's
there.
That guy can coach. No, like York 9 in the CPL. Like,
Yeah, that's what I mean. But he's there. Like, it would've
yeah,
been
sorry,
other
he's
people.
there. Sorry, Jay.
Yeah, it just seems like a natural fit. Like it's insane. But I guess Jim Brennan, I mean, he's like, isn't he like owner and then kind
Yeah.
of manager himself? Like,
Yeah,
I don't know, but
for sure.
yeah, I just
That was
don't
great.
understand how guys like this with this experience are on a podcast with us. You know what I mean? They should be
Yeah.
doing should be doing these anyway. But
Yeah.
who's older, Drew or Carl?
True.
Drew seems older, like an old soul.
Interesting.
Drew's older than us, in my opinion. Remember when he was on and he was just giving like I told the story about when he drove the car home and I was the coach because I didn't want anything to do with it. I said, you're more responsible than anybody here.
I forgot.
So
about
true.
that, yeah. That's hilarious. Yeah. Well, I don't have a whole lot beyond that, but again, just want to say that was pretty sweet. What did you think actually about the Portuguese players that I was asking about? Did you agree with most things he said?
Yeah, I think he didn't want to say underrated, overrated. He
Yeah.
didn't want to be controversial.
nice.
He's
Yeah.
too nice. So I was like, Mark, bail. But you twisted it nicely. I agreed pretty much with everything but Pepe.
Yeah, like, but that game he played the other day, man, he was insane.
Yeah, he can be that player. Maybe I just don't like him. And I think he's
for
a cannon.
For a tournament though, for the Euros, do you bring him like in a tournament game? Like you need a scrapper like that, no?
I think you need a scrapper and a vet in tournaments. A veteran player. Like, so it depends on your squad and what you have and all. Like if you have, you got to bring Ruben Diaz, right? Like that guy's a legend that guy's a really good. I hate that he is. So maybe he's the veteran head that goes with him. I don't know. I would say you kind of have to, but he is old now where you want to turn the page maybe.
Yeah, for sure. Here's a thing. Who's going to win the Euros? Let's just throw a name out there, see if you're right. I mean, we could save that for another show, but just, I don't know. I want to know, who do you think's going to win?
Do you think they're actually going to play it? Like, I'm so hopeful.
100%.
Okay. God, I don't know. I have I haven't even thought about it.
I know, me neither. It's I'm mad.
How about we tease this then? We think about it, and on the next Snob show next week, we'll ask it, and hopefully we can ask everyone to comment and see who's the most popular. So we'll give you a week to ponder.
I can tell you who I want to win it. I want Belgium to win it.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like Belgium had this golden generation, and I want them to have something to crown their golden generation. And I like that they've had a good generation and they've like shown the way development wise. I want them to be rewarded. And I like in soccer, like I was saying the other day on one of these shows, I like when it's someone new and different that comes up and you're like, wow, like there's a Belgium generation of players. That's incredible. Like I love that Croatia was good when they first started as a nation and they got to the final. Like I love Uruguay, like I like those. I like Turkey. I want a new nation to come through that excites me, and they're the closest thing, and I want them to be rewarded.
Wow, that's hard to argue with.
Yeah, I guess my revolt to the Belgium is just like, I'm kind of bored of them in terms of like, they got to win this year. They'll win this year. And I understand what you're saying, but now I'm just kind of like, I want the new Belgium.
Can I tell you why? I know exactly why. I know you so well. I'm your psych because you're a kid and you were excited by Belgium. It was the new present under the tree that you got. Yeah. And then something broke on the toy and you got bored of it. You went right to the next thing. You popped your big league chew in your mouth and now you're bored of the Belgium toy. But I'm like, I want to fix the Belgium toy and give it back to you as a present. But you've moved on.
That is the greatest analogy of podcast history, and you nailed it.
Yeah, or it's like, yeah, exactly. That's it. You did. It's like it's almost fake to me now. It was like Ligo. It wasn't Lego. Like I just didn't think it would.
He
Didn't
just
turn out.
neutralized you, Steve. Zzz, done. Best analogy. Done. Killed. Fried up. Me, stupid. Me, harsh. Now my personality comes out. I hate Lukaku. I can't stand him. I think he's an awful player. I only think he was picked because he's a giant man. Like he's a big bear man.
And you know who else I hate? I don't like Hazard with his
I
move to
love
Real
Hazard.
and everything. So like,
I love Hazard.
yeah, to me, it's just an unlikable squadron. I just don't like it anymore.
Squadron. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree.
The way
Why am I doing that? So weird.
Holding your neck.
Oh,
Anyway, so let's wrap that up with Tony Fonseca and our hate for Belgium. And anyway, well, next week we'll pick our winners.
okay. Clean your fish tanks, Mark.
I'm about to sneeze, so I'm dying for you to hit unrecord.